Hey guys, today I want to talk about tattoos. Specifically, I want to look at what does the Bible say. In the not so distant past, tattoos were considered extremely taboo in most Christian circles. If a Christian got a tattoo, that was one of the biggest things you should not do. Over the years, tattoos have become less and less controversial, and now many Christians have tattoos. But my guess is most Christians don't know why it's okay or if it's okay. It's just become socially acceptable. So I want to look at what the Bible says about tattoos and answer the question, should Christians get them? Before we jump into that, would you hit that subscribe button so that you can stay up to date on videos that are coming out on this channel? The Bible doesn't say a whole lot about tattoos. In fact, there's only one verse that specifically mentions them, and that's Leviticus 19:28, which says, "Do not cut your bodies for the dead, and do not mark your skin with tattoos." Which at first glance, that seems pretty clear, right? Tattoos are a no-go. Christians shouldn't get tattoos. But before we jump to any conclusions, we need to look a little bit deeper at what this verse is actually saying. This passage is addressing a specific ancient ritual in which people would mark their bodies or tattoo their skin in worship of their pagan gods. And this was happening in all the nations surrounding Israel. And God is saying, don't participate in that. Don't do that, because he knew that if they participated in that kind of worship of the pagan gods, it would draw them away from him. It would draw them away from the one true God. So God says, avoid it. You see, that's the context in which this verse is written. So how does this verse apply to us today? In short, it doesn't. At least not about the tattoo part. See, the emphasis of this verse is not on the tattoos. It's not on the do not mark your bodies. The emphasis of this verse is on don't worship false gods. And today, tattoos mean something totally different than they did when this verse was written. See, tattoos used to be part of pagan worship, but today, culturally, tattoos don't mean that. They don't have anything to do with that. So the emphasis is on don't worship false gods, not do not get tattoos. This verse is really not talking about the act of tattooing. It's talking about the danger of worshiping false gods. And I still see some Christians use this verse as an argument to why you shouldn't get tattoos, but it's missing the point. Tattoos aren't the problem. Worshiping false gods is. And I don't know anybody that has gotten a tattoo in worship of a false god. Leviticus 19:28 is the only passage that mentions tattoos, but there's another argument that I commonly hear from Christians as to why we shouldn't get tattoos, and that is that our body is a temple of God. Therefore, we shouldn't get tattoos because we're damaging something that's sacred. Most people who use this argument will point to 1 Corinthians 6 verses 19 and 20, which says that our body is God's temple. And then they'll argue that tattooing our body brings damage. Therefore, we shouldn't tattoo our bodies because our bodies are God's temple. And at first glance, this seems to make sense. But when we look at it a little bit further, this argument falls apart. First, we do lots of things that bring damage to our body, from sitting too long to exercising too hard, from eating sugar and eating the foods that aren't good for us, and even getting in a car to drive can potentially bring damage to our body. So should we avoid all of those things? That's the heart of this argument, is that anything that damages the temple of God, that anything that damages our body, we should avoid. But that's not really what this verse is pointing to. And also, this argument is assuming that tattooing damages the body, but it doesn't. It alters it, but it does not damage the body. If you take this view, if you take this argument to the logical conclusion, it would be a sin to do anything that damages or potentially could damage your body. But that's not what 1 Corinthians 6 is actually talking about. It's talking about fleeing from sexual immorality. It has nothing to do with tattoos or eating too much sugar or doing things that damage your body. It has to do with sexual immorality. So this argument actually doesn't hold any water when you look at the context in which 1 Corinthians 6 is written. While the Bible clearly doesn't forbid tattoos, it still leaves us with this question of, should I get a tattoo, or should Christians get tattoos? So I want to give you two questions that will help you kind of discern this gray area. The first question is this: what is the wisest thing for me to do? You see, life isn't all about black and white, what's right and what's wrong. Sometimes there's gray areas, and tattoos is one of those gray areas. So a good question to ask when we're encountering these gray areas is, what's the wisest thing for me to do? Rather than asking, is it okay for me to get a tattoo? Ask yourself, is it wise for me to get a tattoo? A hard lesson that I've had to learn is that even though I might have the freedom to do something, it still has consequences. It will still affect those around me. It will affect how I interact with those around me. It will affect the influence I have over others. So when you're considering, should I get a tattoo or not, consider how it will affect those around you. You cannot please everybody, nor should you try. But I think this question is still valid to ask and to consider because you have relationships in your life that are worth hanging on to, and you have people in your life that God has placed you there to make an impact on. So you should ask yourself, how will getting a tattoo affect them? Because it's worth hanging on to those relationships, and you don't want to lessen your influence on those people. So maybe for you, while you have the freedom to get a tattoo, maybe it's not the best thing for you to do. So to answer the question, should I get a tattoo or should Christians get a tattoo? We have to look at our own lives and make that decision for ourselves. We have the freedom to do what we want. The Bible doesn't forbid it, but we should still ask, is this the wise thing for me to do? And how will it affect those around me? So can Christians get tattoos? Yes. Is it a sin or forbidden in the Bible? No, it's not. Should Christians get tattoos? That's up for each person to look at their own lives and decide if that's the wisest thing for them to do. And one last note, let's not condemn others on the decisions they've made and the freedom that they have. Thanks for joining. I hope that you learned something today. If you did, would you subscribe to this channel and then also like and comment on this video? I would love to hear your thoughts. Name Lord of Lords and King of Kings